Today, we're diving into a ghost story that feels like it was born right out of a YouTube live stream. We are going to break down the last absolutely terrifying hours of a paranormal investigator who set out to debunk a legend, but ended up becoming a part of it himself.
So our story doesn't actually start in some creepy, haunted building. It starts on a dark, empty road. At 2:35 in the morning, a black SUV crashes. It's a single-vehicle accident. The driver's name? Swastik. Now, I really want you to lock that time in your head, 2:35 a.m. It is without a doubt the single most important detail in this entire story.
So, who exactly was Swastik? Well, he wasn't just some YouTuber. He was like a champion for rational thinking. In a world totally obsessed with ghost stories, he was the guy pushing back, trying to find a logic and reason in all the things that go bump in the night. And this phrase right here, this was his signature, his brand. His entire worldview really boiled down into 3 words, Bhut kahi nahi hote, which basically means ghosts don't exist. This wasn't just a catchy sign-off for his videos, it was pretty much a declaration of war on the supernatural. As the night hunter, Swastik built this huge following, all based on skepticism. He would literally march into the most feared, supposedly haunted places, armed with cameras, sensors, all kinds of equipment, totally determined to prove that every ghostly whisper was just the wind and every shadow was just a trick of the light. To his millions of subscribers, he was a hero of logic. And that brings us to his final and, as it turns out, fateful challenge. One of his subscribers dared him to investigate this one location that was infamous all over the city, a place with such a dark history that most people wouldn't even go near it during the day, let alone at night. The mission was one you've probably heard of if you're into online horror culture, the 3:33 a.m. challenge. People call it the Devil's Hour. It's supposed to be the time when the veil between our world and, well, the next world is at its absolute thinnest. For a guy like Swastik, this was the perfect myth to go out and bust. And the location, it's straight out of a horror movie. 20 kilometers outside the city, you find the charred, burned-out ruins of an old orphanage. 15 years earlier, a terrible fire had swept through, taking the lives of a bunch of children and their elderly caretaker. The local legend was simple and honestly pretty chilling. If you listen really closely at night, you can still hear them. So Swastik starts his live stream with his usual confidence, kind of mocking the spooky stories for his audience. He was there to get hard data, not to tell ghost stories. But as you know, with live streaming, the line between putting on a show and reality can get really, really blurry, especially when thousands of people are watching, just waiting for something to happen. True to his whole process, he brings out the tech. He sets up motion sensors in every single major room. And the logic is solid, right? If a ghost is a physical thing, it should trip a sensor. If not, then every beep has a rational explanation. A rat, a draft, the building settling. He's basically trying to create a controlled experiment in a completely uncontrolled place. Let's just walk through this timeline, because this is exactly where the scientific method starts to completely fail him. At 2:55 a.m., one sensor goes off. Probably a mouse, he says, laughing it off to his stream. But then at 3 a.m. on the dot, 3 different sensors in 3 separate rooms all go off at the exact same time. The chances of that? Pretty low. He calls it a malfunction. Then at 3:07, he starts feeling a chill. At 3:20, a chair literally scrapes across the floor, right on camera. And then at exactly 3:33 a.m., his own technology turns on him. And let's just zero in on that temperature drop for a second. It goes from 24 degrees Celsius all the way down to 16. That's a sudden 8-degree plunge for no logical reason. In the paranormal world, an unexplainable cold spot like that, that's a classic sign that you are definitely not alone. So as the camera started glitching out, filling the screen with static, Swastik just thought he was losing the stream, that the connection was bad. But his audience, they were seeing something totally different. The live stream wasn't breaking down. It was actually revealing a truth he just was not ready for. And this, right here, this is the moment his entire world shatters. Through the static on his little camera monitor, he sees this impossible image. It's himself, but standing right behind him is the figure of an old woman, her face scarred from burns. He whips around, nothing, just empty air. He looks back at the screen, and she's still there. Which brings up a question that just messes with your head. Think about it. He's seeing a third-person shot of himself on the very camera that he's holding in his own hands. It's like watching a movie of yourself while you're still living it. I mean, how is that even possible? And then his terror is instantly confirmed by the live chat. His audience sees her too. The feedback loop is complete. Whatever's happening, it's real, and it's being shared by thousands of people all at once. Then, a second comment pops up, making this absolutely impossible claim. Swastik is already dead. How could anybody possibly know that? To Swastik, this had to be just some cruel, tasteless joke, some troll trying to ruin the whole stream. And then, the ultimate punch to the gut. A new comment, and it's posted from his own account, The Night Hunter. It says, "You really are dead." And in that split second of total confusion, a memory breaks through the fog. The sound of screeching tires, the crunch of metal, the smell of gasoline. 2:35 a.m. The old woman then appears in front of him. Not on the screen, but right there in the room. And she explains that his spirit, after being untethered in the car crash, was just instinctively drawn to this place. He wasn't really searching for the truth. His soul was just looking for the only thing it knew how to do, the thrill of the hunt. His life's greatest obsession had just become his afterlife's prison. The next morning, police are investigating that crash at 2:35 a.m., and they find his gear inside the orphanage. The camera is still on, its battery just about to die. They play back the footage. The very last frame it recorded shows the old woman standing all alone in the hall, right where Swastik had been standing. And then, the screen goes black. And so the story of Swastik, the man who built his career on debunking ghosts, ends with the most chilling irony you can imagine. Driven by his life's work, his spirit just carried on with its final investigation, completely unaware that he was no longer one of the living. It leaves all of us with one really haunting question. If you died, would you even know it?